Hello there, welcome to Herman Manyora's YouTube. My name is Jedel Kabira for political conversations that I hope will build this country even as we progress with President William Ruto's administration. I'm here with Herman Manyora, political analyst and commentator. So how are you doing today?
Good.
We want to have this conversation about something you brought from our live conversation on Wednesday, National Charter.
Yes.
I want to know because Raila has introduced something first before we go there, division of revenue among counties to be part of these talks that will be held, 1 man, 1 vote, 1 shilling.
Yes.
I want to know, is Raila first deviating before we go to this conversation of national charter, deviating from the issue at hand, which was just cost of living, IEBC and election review?
You know, things, as you begin to talk, things come up.
Yeah.
You meet different groups of people and they ask you, why are you not considering us? The people of the mountain have always argued there can be no national conversation that doesn't bring the issue of 1 man, 1 vote, 1 shilling. So Raila is interacting with different groups and some of them are asking, look, how can we be part of this movement when our issues are not on the table? It's possible, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think that is a Mount Kenya issue of 1 man, 1 vote.
It's not a national
1 shilling.
Not a national issue.
No, of course you can call it national, but it's prominent in Mount Kenya. Prominent in terms of advocating for it. Prominent from the sparsely populated areas in terms of opposing it. Those who say instead of 1 man, 1 shilling, say 1 kilometer, 1 shilling. Yeah.
Because we have more land without people.
So people. And when he interacts with the pastoralists, they'll also tell him the same. This kilometer of ours, unawacha wapi. So, a national conversation issues will keep coming up.
Then what is the reason basically for having these talks? If anyone can come up with any suggestion and then be brought to the table representing their people, is there a reason for these talks now? Because every country has its own problems and there are problems that are never addressed.
That's why I have said, whether Ruto knows it or not, whether Raila knows it or not, whether they like it or not, we will end up having a national conversation. It's a question of when and what circumstances will lead us there. The sooner we do it, the better. This is evidence of what I've been saying. We need a national charter arising out of a national conversation. Why are we where we are? How have we come this far badly? How do we need to move forward? What are our challenges? How come we are about to lose our country? All these things will come up.
Is this a sort of BBI too?
Yeah, everybody seems to agree that BBI was a good thing. The reason why, look, Ruto is back on BBI. That's why Mudavadi is in that office. That's BBI.
Yeah.
They have had a conversation on increasing revenue for counties. Ruto himself.
Yes.
It's just that the government has no money. He would have increased. That's BBI. They have brought these things of cars and what have you. That's what Uhuru had brought on board as part of that inclusivity. So, everybody is in BBI. Let me tell you this. We will travel far if we wish. We will come out limping. We will have lost some people. All need to do what we ought to do now. The idea is, the handshake was a big idea. The handshake was a big idea. The two gentlemen, Raila and Ruto, identified the problem that ails this country. We will all go there one time to that handshake.
From where you see, do you think the handshake, as you say, is a good idea, but how it was implemented, even post the handshake?
Handshake was a good
idea. Would you agree
idea
with Rigathi that post the handshake, things were messed up because of lack of opposition?
No, that's politics. That's politics. That's the most stupid part of the politics.
But
because the same politics was saying, food, not Ukraine, handshake. Is that true?
No.
Cost of fuel and everything, not international crude oil prices, handshake. Problems in the country, the dollar. No, not the dollar, the handshake. Is that still the case?
I kind of forget about the politics of it all, but from a logical perspective, we did not really have a strong opposition post the handshake. Would you agree with that?
That's partly true, yeah.
Yeah, and therefore this means that if we go back to handshake, we need to probably think about how it will be implemented.
No, you see, handshake is the handshake idea is not the operationalization part of it. It's the thinking part of it, the idea level. At the level of an idea that this country has had a false start. How do we start afresh? How do you go back to factory settings? That was the idea of the handshake. And Raila and Uhuru traced the problem in this country squarely where it belongs. Jaramogi and Kenyatta, Jomo Kenyatta. That's where the problem started. The Luo and the Kikuyu. Simple. We are going around a problem that is very clear.
But
because these two most political communities from the period before independence, the fight for independence, and the period after independence, the two most political communities have been the Kikuyu and the Luo. And the problems between them have been the national problems we have. So the handshake idea was our fathers, Jaramogi and Jomo Kenyatta, brought this country where it is. We need to go back and bring the two communities together and all Kenyans together.
Based on the Mount Kenya reaction post the handshake or to the handshake, would you say the people were ready for that handshake because they sort of all abandoned the president at that time?
Yes.
Are people ready to have this again this time round if Ruto was to say have a handshake with Raila together with Rigathi Gachagua?
It depends on who exploits it. People are not against it. It's clever politicians who make people see it's a bad thing. Because even Kikuyus made to think Uhuru was bad. It was the most stupid thing you can think about. What Uhuru did for Kikuyus, 10 presidents can come, they will not know even half of it. Yeah.
So it was just exploitation.
There's no way Ruto can do a quarter of what Ruto did, what Uhuru did for the Kikuyus. The infrastructure he has set in motion, even Ruto, even if he hated Uhuru, he can't remove, he can't change. There are contractual obligations. Mau Mau Road, Karibu Kuisha, you can't change it. The things he's putting up in Mount Kenya, you can't change. The people he put in leadership, some you can't remove. So, it is people who have been poisoned, not because there was reality to the fact that the handshake was bad or Raila was bad. It's just people being made to believe. So, if some clever boy comes and wants to exploit the Raila Ruto handshake, if it happens, he could succeed. Just the way Ruto succeeded. It's possible. There's no objective reality. It is simply politics.
Ruto.
So if another Ruto comes to rubbish the Ruto-Raila deal and is as good as Ruto, even half as good, he will succeed.
Then what is the way forward for Raila, Odinga and Ruto if they are to have these talks? What is the way forward for them?
Simple. An honest national conversation. Honest.
It has to go nationally.
An honest national conversation. Honest.
What does that include necessarily? Because if we are just talking about cost of living in the IBC, and then one man, one vote, 1 shilling comes in, and then we hear something else.
Those are small matters. All those, including the servers, are small. We'll come back to the handshake. What is the problem with this country? Can all Kenyans feel they are part of this country?
That is what the National Charter is all about.
Can everybody feel they are part of this country? Can I vote and go home knowing the person I voted to can become voted for? That is. You may want to please yourself, to sleep somewhere, believing elections are free in this country. Oh, Uhuru won fairly, Ruto has won. You can go ahead, but you know if you are serious. More than 50% of this country, in fact 50% is a very conservative estimate, do not have faith in the elections in this country.
How about food?
And you can see, it cuts across the country. You can see the urge to register for votes is gone down badly. The turnout was horrible. You know that?
Yeah.
It can't be for nothing. Of course, there are other factors.
When you listen
that people have lost faith in elections, in politics. First, in terms of what is the politician doing to change my life? Zero. They're only lying to me. Secondly, does my vote really matter? I said this thing in 2017. I said when you push Kenyans to believing that their votes will not matter, the way it's increasingly becoming clear, you are going to end up with a very sad state, and that's where we are today.
How about for the 6 million people plus that voted for President William according to IBC's result? And they say Ruto
7 million, yes.
And they say Ruto is a figure, is a symbol of someone can come from the ground and become president. Does
If
that
he had
make
done
any
it in
sense
a
for
way
you
that
representing
did not
that?
If he had done it in a way and in an environment that did not create doubt, that would have worked. But as it were, if you use this election, almost 60% of the country plus are not convinced William won fairly. Yeah. In terms of those who voted for Raila, we going by IBC figures, they are at 50-50. Because 6.9 and 7.2, that's 50-50, okay?
Yeah.
A difference of 200,000, 250,000 votes. It's 50-50%. 8 million did not turn out to vote. A normal election will produce people who for no reason may not vote, who for some good reason or excuse may not vote. But that leaves a percentage of people who have no faith in this system. Okay? When you bring in Horse Kamago into the picture, you can now begin to see there's a bad and disturbing percentage of Kenyans who would not believe Ruto won fairly. So,
Raila says
the hustler thing, the coming from nothing to something story doesn't quite work. If these elections had been held in an environment that convinces people that the elections were free and fair, like it happens elsewhere, that story would have been a big story.
Is the biggest problem in the country now a question of faith in our electoral system? Is that the biggest problem we're facing now in this country, and that's what should be sorted out?
It is not faith in the electoral system. It is the idea that Kenya is a membership club. And it is a club for card-holding members. And to the extent you are not a card-holding member, you never enjoy being a Kenyan. Until you are a club-holding member. And you know, I'm a member of clubs. To be a club-holding member is different from entering the club. You can enter as a guest. Some clubs I've seen when one of my clubs has started issuing temporal cards. You are not a member, you go there, pay 500, you are given a card, you unaweka nani pesa. You use, then you get out, take your balance and go. But to be a card-holding member is not easy. You are vetted. It's not just your money, you are vetted. You must be introduced by members, 2 members. And the entire members must sit and agree we can admit him. So the problem in this country has been this issue of Kenya being a club for card-holding members.
Who is this club? Because for Ruto, he used dynasty to say these are club members.
You know what it started? In Kenya, it started with it was a pure tribal thing. The Kikuyu. And it wasn't even the Kikuyu. It was a cabal of Kikuyus, the Mount Kenya Mafia. And they were basically Kiambu Mafia. There was even the saying that the Kikuyus had believed no other tribe will be president. But among themselves, they said it had to be Kiambu.
Not even General
that it will never go beyond
Kiambu.
Chania. There used to be a saying, even songs.
And
when Kibaki won, I was in Nyeri. I used to drink those days. We were given free. Someone would just go to the stage. I remember Mwenje was there. Has it crossed River Chania? People are, wow! Everybody drink free. So that is how the club began. A Kikuyu affair. They could not imagine another person being president of Kenya. The oath of 1969, after the death of Tom Mboya. The thing about Jem Kariuki's death and the reaction in central Kenya. And how Kenyatta had used the provincial administration. Madenge in Rift Valley, Mburu in Western, Mahiu in Coast. You know, it was basically a Kikuyu government, Kenya. They couldn't see at any one time anybody else could be president of this country.
Moi was
so
there.
Among them,
Moi was there pre-Kibaki.
those are now members who are allowed temporal membership. So, but Kenyatta, as usual, sometimes when you are a leader, you see more than the people around you. Kenyatta did not give Moi because he loved Moi so much. He knew Moi will be controlled by the club members. And Moi was controlled until he left State House. He never was president of this country in the way people think. And the reason why, in my view, and I've written a book about it, but it has not been published. Moi looked around, he wanted Uhuru Kenyatta to be president, not Moi, Kenyatta. He wanted this boy to be president. You know how old men become sentimental with their young children from young wives. Even you look in the Bible and everywhere else.
Yeah.
Or grandchildren.
Yeah.
The boy is playing around him. You know, he's an old man. And you see in the Bible, King David being told by the young wife, not King David, kids, I think Saul, my son should be president or something like that, or king and things, those kind of stories. So, Moi was athletic, teetotaler, well built, could live long enough for Uhuru to be president. That's why he was given. My theory. Just in the same way Kibaki took over this thing as a caretaker president, as Uhuru was being processed to become president. You can see how this country is working. So it was like a Kikuyu affair after independence. That is the deep state. Mount Kenya mafia, Kiambu mafia. Later, it morphed up beyond just being a Mount Kenya mafia, Kiambu mafia, into business interests. People with business interests. The emerging billionaires of the 1970s. You get it?
Yeah.
To have things work their way. And having things work your way means you must take an interest in how the country is governed. In who becomes president. And how does that president behave when he's in State House?
Now,
that's how deep states works.
Fast forward, now we have President William Ruto.
Yes.
Some say he defeated the deep state. Actually,
if Ruto was quite in charge, an outsider, you know, you used to go for racing, horse racing, until I saw you could be addicted. So, and then I ran away before I got addicted. If Ruto was aware of deep state and wanted to destroy it, and is we call outsiders, an outsider can win the race. Those who will have bet on that horse, they carry money in sacks. So if Ruto was an outsider who has won and determined to deal with the deep state, by now he would have dismantled state capture. Has he done it? The things we were told about Fuliza, about NCBA, Sijui, these banks, Sijui, what? Why hasn't he destroyed them? But like when Mudavadi became, what was it called?
Metropolitan.
Yeah. I said I'm watching to see if we can do something. I want to see these water bowsers not moving. Those are cartels. People carrying garbage. The dump site in Dandora. If you don't deal with that, don't go home. Just go home. Take your salary and go home. Don't tell me you can do anything. So has Sakaja done anything about Nairobi? He said he wanted to close bus. Has he closed the bus?
So up to now,
has he closed it?
Not yet.
Everything has died down.
The licenses,
the noise are still there.
Licenses have been revoked.
So Ruto has also not managed to deal with the shenanigans, the mess we are seeing about state capture. Is that right?
Yeah.
Why? Someone like Gachagua was so upbeat. He thought it was so simple. We shall start a commission and a tribunal to do with the state cap. Has he done it? You can't deal with those guys easily.
So we go back to national charter.
Yes.
What we need
the
to
national
discuss.
charter will deal with those things. How do we remove the state capture? Those mafias, the deep state, so that we have our country to ourselves. If we must create another deep state, let's create it later. But our deep state is dangerous. Every country has their own deep state. This one is very dangerous because the tribal angle is what makes it very dangerous. You see, if it is in another country that doesn't have this kind of ethnic imbalances and the dangers they are in, you can play your deep state politics. Ukoju. But to the extent that when the people want power, they come to the tribe. And now you create a country that is multi-ethnic, and you create tensions in the country by making it clear to all and sundry that the country belongs to only 2 communities out of 40. That's dangerous.
That is indeed dangerous. We need to have this conversation so that we move on as a country. Until we do talk again, thank you so much for tuning in. Have yourself a lovely rest of your day.